All right. In a moment, we're going to share the pre-recorded interview with Sean D'Souza. It was freaking outstanding, and I know you're going to enjoy it. But let me tell you first quick, Hack West 1.0, the Wild Bunch, scheduled March 21st through the 23rd in the lovely Salt Lake City. It's going to include training opportunities with Tim Tomes, Fuzzy Knopp, Jordan and Kent from Black Hills Information Security, Wireless Hacking Village, Voting Machine Hacking Village, Mobile Device Hacking Village, and keynotes include Dawn Marie Hutchinson, who was our guest on Business Security Weekly last week. If you go to hackwest.org, you can register, and as a valued family member, one of our audience, you get the family and friends discount, 25% off with the code SWHW2018. All right, go ahead, Paul.
I just want to say with the interview that we're about to air with Sean D'Souza that I don't want to spoil anything in the interview. I do have to say that one of the more surprising moments for me in this interview is when Sean calls out Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss.
Yep.
And I don't want to spoil too much, but basically praises that book. I was like falling over in my seat during the interview on that, and that's just one awesome thing that's in the interview. So, I mean, as much as we've talked about the Brain Audit and Sean D'Souza, this interview lived up to every expectation that I could have and exceeded it in so many different areas.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm super excited to have this content on our network, and a huge
I was trying to
thanks
take
Sean.
notes as we were going through it. You kidding? It was absolutely fantastic. And Sean is he's a good person. Like, he came across exactly as he is, and through all my interactions with him as well. And I'm looking forward to maybe being able to do the same with Chris Voss. Now I know you're getting ready to head off for some well-deserved vacation. Matt Alderman's taking your seat next week. I think he'll probably still be in Denver. But we're going to catch back up with Will Lynn next week from Trident Capital.
Nice.
And we're going to talk a little bit about some decision structures and some points, and we're going to look at all the perspectives like we normally do, as well as what it's like to forge the right kind of relationship. You can catch me on Twitter at Catalyst. You can get Paul at Security Weekly. Let us know your thoughts. Today's show, segments you want, things. We're working on all the stuff you guys have asked for. And we'll be back next Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern, live on Facebook and YouTube. So make sure you have a great week. And now, the long-awaited for, the very exciting, the first part of our discussion with Sean D'Souza. And I'm going to sit back, watch it, take some notes. I bet you will too. And we'll see you next week. And we're back. And this is the interview that, well, I've been waiting for. I think Paul's been waiting for. Sean D'Souza is joining us all the way from New Zealand through the magic of the inner tubes. You've heard us talk about the book now for months, The Brain Audit, and it looks at how we make decisions. This is a book that was introduced to me by Philip Casisa, and he brought it to me about maybe this time last year, and he said, Michael, this is a life-changing book. You should go read this book. Picked it up, read it, reread it, loved it, and since then have become a big devotee and a fan of Sean D'Souza. And one day hope to be able to sit with him and dine and pick his brain. Well, not pick his brain, but talk to him a little bit. But so Sean D'Souza, welcome to Business Security Weekly, and thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, it's a pleasure.
And I just want to say, Michael and Sean, a very, very quick story. I was at a gas station once, and someone had their car next to me, and they were playing what sounded like a sales kind of coaching book that they were listening to. And as I'm pumping my gas, I was like, wow, that just sounds horrible. This was several years ago. I'm like, that's terrible. And then when Michael and I started working more closely, I had never really read books about sales or really embraced the sales approach. Michael's like, no, you got to read this book called The Brain Audit. And based on Michael's recommendation, I listened to it and I was like, wow, okay, I'm totally sold now. Like, there is actually some value to listening to books about sales, and particularly your book, Sean, has been hugely influential and really turned it around for me. For me to be excited about a sales book, the point of the story is like a really big deal. So it's awesome. Well,
that's just made 2018 for me, right? So yeah, that's and that's the whole point. You know, most people have an aversion to sales. They look at it as slimy stuff that you have to get someone. You have to convince them to do something. You don't have to do that. You're presenting information in a way that they want to receive it. Just like meals, right? You offer dessert before, the main meal. Kids will like it, but the vast majority of us go like, what the hell are you giving me this stuff for? And yet you put it in the right sequence and they go, that's exactly what I needed. That's what I want. I want my starters. I want my wine. I want my main. that's the sequence. And that's the reason why the brain audit works for most people, is because they understand this is my brain slowed down.
For sure, for sure.
What I love about the book is the analogy. So you open and you talk about 7 bags and 7 red bags. And if you travel and you check your bags in when you get to your destination, you're going to wait for all 7 bags. How did you come up with that analogy? And technically, Paul, that was your question,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna lift
Why
it.
luggage? Yeah.
How did you
Yeah,
come up with that? Because I mean that resonated. Like, was that your first analogy, Sean, or did you spend some time working on it?
I'm good with analogies. I mean, yeah, I probably could bring up 5 analogies while we were having a conversation here. That just happened to be the one that I had to make a presentation. I had to get an analogy. I go, okay, how do we fit this? Probably many years of reading other stuff, but I do that on the fly. I do that almost always to explain a concept. Almost always I will kind of use an analogy. Just 5 minutes ago, I was talking about someone who was talking about starting up their business, and I said, the problem is not that the problem with most people today is consistency. It's like driving a car. You can't drive it too fast, you can't drive it too slow, because you crash or you get stuck and you can't stop all the while. So so I think in analogies a lot, and I guess that was a good one.
No, it was a great one, and you have a good knack for it. So, can we give people just a quick overview then? Because certainly they've heard us talk about it, but I don't know that we've really broken it down into the 7 bags. So, what are the 7 bags of the brain audit? Because I've got some questions then relative to some of the specifics.
Right. So, what we're really trying to do is you're trying to reduce rejection, you're trying to reduce hesitation, and what you're going through are 2 complete sections. And the first is you have to get my attention, because right through history, you've had to try and get the attention of the client. And the second part is the moment you get someone's attention, then there's a factor of risk. You look at it from a perspective of dating. You get someone's attention, and the moment you get their attention, there's like, okay, what are the risk factors of dealing with this person, going out with this person? So those are the 2 main sections. But when we take the first section, which is the first 3 bags, we have the problem, we have the solution, and we have the target profile. And then when we go to the risk section, we go through the objections, the testimonials, the risk reversal, and finally uniqueness. So you're really dealing with these 7 red bags. And the reason why they're called 7 red bags is essentially you get on a flight, you put the 7 red bags, you get off on the other end of the flight, and you're waiting for your bags. And 1 red bag comes off, the second one comes off, the third one comes off, and then you have an orange bag and a purple bag. The point is you've got 6 red bags when you leave the airport. And you don't. And that's the whole analogy, that if the client is missing 1 red bag, one of those bags, then they start to hesitate. And then we take that as rejection, that something's wrong with our price, something's wrong with this, something's wrong with that. But in reality, we haven't given them the information that they need, and we haven't given them the information in the sequence that they need. And that's very important.
So this is why a lot of companies, when they're small, they're starting up, there's 2 or 3 people, they tend to find that as they've been able to explain stuff well enough, they do well with sales. But as their team grows, one of the things we see in security is people will say, I used to be able to close deals in 30 days. Now it takes 12 months. And it seems like perhaps they're forgetting some of those bags. And as a result, as a decision maker, you just kind of hung up in limbo. Is that a fair way to look at it?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at what they're doing, almost clearly you can see that they're missing some of the stuff. Now, we can't take the brain audit and go, okay, this is the only thing that's going to help you, because it is one section of it. There is, if you look at anything, you can broadly break it up into like 2 or 3 sections. So there is what you call a pre-sell, an understanding of what's going to happen. There is the hesitation stage, and then there is the follow-up. Just because you present something in a way that's amazing doesn't mean anything. It means the real money for most clients is in the follow-up. When you follow up, you are breaking down those barriers, and eventually the client buys, and then they buy some more, and they buy some more. And a lot of people, when they look at even Psychotactics, which is our site, they go, "You don't get a lot of traffic to your site." And we go, "Yeah, but why do we need the traffic?" And they go, "Well, don't you need traffic for conversion?" You go, "No, you don't need conversion. You need repeated conversion. You need the second conversion. You need the third conversion. That's where your money is." I mean, when you look at a company like Amazon, it's not, you pay for data. You don't pay for data 1 month and you quit. The money is in the third, fourth conversion. It's in the third, fourth book that you buy from Amazon. That's where they're making their money. And that's the problem. The people just think, "Oh, yeah, I just do this and everything works." But to answer your question, the problem is that there is going to be, even in that middle section where you look at those 7 red bags, there are going to be flaws. There's going to be some data that's corrupt.
And hence the idea of the audit, right? It's an audit process.
Right.
Let's start with the problem.
Because anyone can go through it. Yeah.
One of the things that's fascinating, so when my friend Philip recommended the book, I've been asking people for, I don't know, years, as long as Paul and I have known each other, what problem are you trying to solve? So naturally, Philip says, "Oh, you got to go read this book." It starts with that. And what we've noticed a lot lately from some of our viewers and our audience is they'll say, "Okay, we get it. Easy question to ask, not so simple to answer." We see a lot of people still stay with very compound, elongated problems. If you've got an afternoon and a whiteboard, I'll explain it to you. And what I learned reading your book and what I really liked is you talked about the need to isolate and really, I don't know if the right word is simplify, but we've got to focus on that problem a little bit better. Why do you think we don't do that? And what's some advice for somebody listening on how to do a little bit better getting the right problem?
So the first 3 bags of the brain audit are the problem, the solution, and the target profile. Okay. And we'll get to the target profile shortly, but let's just drop that target profile, just drop it for a second, and we'll just look at the problem and the solution. Every product has what you call benefits. So they have benefits and features. You go to, I've got this cup in my hand, this mug. This is going to have some benefits and features. Can you see it? Yeah. Okay. Right. All of those books behind, everything has benefits and features. And what people try to do is they try to get every single benefit and feature across. And in doing so, they don't isolate one problem. Now, if you were to take, I have like 6 microphones in this room and all different types of microphone. I got an offer for a 7th microphone. Why do I buy the 7th microphone? That's the kind of question that you have to ask. And that 7th microphone has benefits. It can work under freezing conditions. It can go for 6 hours. But one of the things that it does is I can walk from here and go across the bridge and then go like 60 meters away from here. And you can still record video from where I'm sitting right here, even though you have moved 60 meters away. That's the specific problem it solves. And who does it solve this for? It solves it for people who are, say, presenting in a room. They're making a YouTube video. They're doing stuff like that. And they need to move across the room. They don't need the wires. They don't need all the fiddly stuff. They just need a Bluetooth thing. I could say, "Oh, but it works under freezing conditions. Oh, it does this and it does that." And what we have then is this confusion in the customer's brain, and they already have so many things coming at them that they don't pay attention to what you're saying. But if you just took one of those benefits and you turn that around and go, "Okay, let's make this the problem, and let's talk about the consequences of not handling the situation. What happens when you trip over a wire? What happens when and this is, you see this in the movies. You have what is called the main star, the hero, and then you have supporting cast. And all the benefits that you have, they are great. They're supporting cast, but only the hero can do the job for like that section. And if you try to throw in the supporting cast right at the start, no one knows who's the hero. You have to make one problem the hero. I don't know if I answered the question.
No, you absolutely did. Yeah, it was interesting. I was just thinking about microphones and headphones, which I have a fetish for headphones. And someone was marketing me a pair of headphones that were supposed to look like earmuffs, so that when you ran in the cold, you could wear earmuffs, and they were headphones that sounded great. I think it was a good example of, they were trying to solve a problem. I'm not necessarily in love with that problem, but it kind of leads me into how, if you're going to have a problem statement, a lot of people in security don't, but when you do, like, how do you get to the right problem?
There is no right problem. But having said that, that's where the target profile comes in. So what is a target profile? The moment you say target profile, people actually think of something else. They think of target audience. And target profile is like your mom, right? Supposing you want to buy, so supposing I want to say, make a photo album for my mom. I know what kind of photo album she wants. She wants all the nice pictures. Everyone's dressed up. Everyone's looking perfect. If I have these pictures of my father, in his horrible T-shirt and stuff, that's it. That's the end of the photo album. So you're really looking at one person. So you're looking at, say, a person called Maria. And then what you're trying to do is convince all the Marias of the world that this is their problem. But to do that, you have to actually meet with Maria. And Maria will tell you what is her problem. I'll give you an example of a website that, a guy who's a website developer. Now, what does a website developer do? They build websites. But he came to me and he asked me, so you have a website, and what problem do you solve? Are you looking at? And I go, the problem I have is that website developers build websites, and then after a while, they take over, and then you're locked out of your own website. It's like being in a house where some of the rooms are closed and you can't get in. And so all the people on the planet who feel trapped by their own website now have this analogy to hold on to, and they go, yeah, that's me. So it's just one thing. And companies go, but there are people who want websites for videos, and they want websites for this. Yes, but how about you go after that one problem of all the people who are trapped by their own websites? And you'll find that there are thousands of people like that. That's what a book does. I mean, you look at kind of the book on Amazon, you look at, things that sell really well, and they focus on that one problem. The reason they get there is by mistake, or they get there through some kind of research. But if you go to your client and you sit them down like a real person, and you have lunch with them and you record it, you will find that they make a list of problems that they have. I can't do this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things. But eventually they'll go, if you solve this big problem, that's what I want to solve. And then they will tell you how to solve the problem. So you got your problem and your solution. And then you ask them, well, what are the consequences of not solving the problem? And they tell you what are the consequences. Now, if you try to do this with a persona, which is what a lot of people buy into, now it's just a Frankenstein of things. It's like, yeah. So, yeah, Michael, Frankenstein.
Well, I tell you though, Sean, it took me a while to understand that. And you're one of the things that I deeply love about your approach is how much you share. I mean, you're willing to come on the show with us, and I joined your community 5000 BC. It's interesting because you talk about the conversions, and I'm happy to raise my hand and say, bought the book, tested it with one of the products that you have on the website, implemented it, loved it. Then bought like 2 or 3 more. I think I've gotten 3 courses, and I just looked up. I bought your book on March 7th, 2017. So not even a year ago. And I'm thoroughly loving it. But what I love is when you're in the community, you answer. Like, I think that surprises people, how active you are and how much you answer and you talk with people, and it's a really reasoned level of discourse, and I thoroughly enjoy it. And so you really helped explain a lot of that Franken profile. But it's interesting because if Paul and I go to a show and we ask somebody, okay, well, who are you selling to? I would say that the most common answer we get is, well, it's everybody, and it's not that the whole world is my market. It's they don't know, and so they're not sure what to do about it. Yeah. When somebody's not sure, how do they start to figure that out? How do they figure out who the one person is that they should start with?
Well, so P&G, Procter & Gamble, had this problem many years ago. They have, I forget the name of the product now, but it's $1 billion brand now, and essentially it removes all the odor in the house, and Febreze. They were struggling with Febreze, right? And for years they were not able to solve this problem, because they were going to people and going, okay, you've got 20 cats in the house. This house smells like full of cat pee, but they were not selling it to the right people. And there is this off chance that you're not going to sell it to the right person because you've picked the wrong person. However, in most cases, you will find that you already have a client, and that client is like your favorite client, and you would love to have 1,000 of those favorite clients. And you go to that client and you ask them, what are the problems that you had before you signed up for whatever security stuff or for this microphone or whatever? And they will tell you that problem, and then they will tell you how they chose your product over another product. They will tell you how to solve the problem. The client is going to tell you everything that you need to know. You don't have to do anything more than be an interviewer like Oprah or whatever. You have to just ask the questions, they give you the answer. And that's what the Brain Audit shows you. It shows you, go ask these questions and see what the answers that they come up with. And people are astounded. They resist this target profile interview so much. And that's been one of the biggest surprises that I've had. I thought that people would just take it and run with it, but people are more likely to indulge in guesswork. They're like, okay, let me just sit here and work out what the client wants, or let me sit here and make this Franken profile so that we can hit everything. And when you go and specifically talk to the client, they give you everything you need to know. They tell you why you should sell it, how you should sell it, and you come out of there thinking, why did I wait so long?
Yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, I just I'm not ashamed to admit it took a while for me to kind of figure that out. What happens for the people who legitimately have multiple audiences? Do they go through that process and pick a different problem, Sean? So they have a different target and they match the problem and the approach to that? And is there a risk then of trying to be too many things to too many people?
No, there is no risk. This is the beauty of the internet. I mean, in the past, if we go back even 20 years, you had to print 1,000 brochures. And today you just have to make one page. And when people get driven to that page solves that specific problem. But before you get to that one page, you're looking at your best customer, you're looking at the problem it's solved for the best customer, you're looking at how you would like to have several of those customers. What you're trying to do is like, how can I get 100 of these customers? How can I get 1,000 of these customers? Because if I just solve this one problem for 1,000 customers, just like a specific book, I mean, look at the book that you have on your desk. And it's not trying to solve every single problem. We buy books every single day. I mean, not everyone, but the point is, the book is, like, for instance, I got a book now by Chris Voss, which is Never Split the Difference. Fabulous.
That's our other favorite book.
Yeah, that's your what?
You and Chris. I put you as my favorite book, and Chris Voss's as my second favorite book.
Okay, so we had a specific problem. We had a negotiation problem, and we didn't want it. I mean, this was a border fence. As you know, border disputes are terrible, except that this was completely going against us. Their line was within our really well landscaped garden. So they were going to cut our fence. They were going to cut 11 trees. How do you stop a person from cutting 11 trees and your fence down and make it look like it's their idea?
Right. Yeah, so there's a key. There's ways to do it, but they may not be good ways.
Yeah. I'm sure that, Chris Voss's book solves problems for, terrorists, but I'm not dealing with any terrorists and stuff. And so he's pitching that book directly at me, like this is an everyday situation that you have with your boss, with your, your neighbor or whatever, and you have to solve that problem. And that's it. If he went on and go how to solve, so what his book is saying is you don't split the difference in any negotiation. And if you're so afraid of, say, taking on the main problem, then you can go to what could be like a sub problem. What I'm not thinking super clear right now, but say, let me come back to this. Ask me a few questions. I'll come back to this.
Sure. I want to go through some of the other bags that people go through. Clearly, objections and testimonials, I think people are some level familiar with, but the one that I see a lot of people get confused about is that concept of the risk reversal. Why is that so important, and how do we help people better understand what that means?
So all of those last four bags, the objections, the testimonials, the risk reversal, and uniqueness are all removing risk. So you go, why have a specific thing called the risk reversal? And that is because there is going to be one risk factor which is greater than any other factor. Let's take Zappos, for instance. You say, what risk does Zappos solve? And you go, well, they solve the problem of buying shoes online. But what is the risk? The risk is that I will buy the shoes, I will get them to my house, and then I'll find that I have to go to the post office and then ship them back. And I don't have time for all of that. So what they're looking at is the risk is not what the client says, which is, oh, what if I buy the wrong shoes? The risk is if I buy the wrong shoes and then I get stuck with them, now I have to go through this whole rigmarole of trying to get my money back. We had the same problem when we were selling, information products, and they were physically shipped as books and stuff. And one of the things that we saw was that when people returned it, they would ship the entire book unopened and the CDs unopened. And you go, how can someone get any benefit from something that they haven't even opened? And what we realized was that they were afraid of soiling the books or spoiling the CDs. And so we created a risk reversal, which is called the lawnmower guarantee, which meant that if you didn't like the books, you just take your lawnmower and run it over the books, you run it over the CDs, and you ship it back in a box. And now they were like, okay, this is exactly my problem. My problem is deeper than just money back. And what people do is when they think of risk reversal, they just think, oh, we'll get our money back. But wait a second, you already had your money before I gave it to you. Nobody wants their money back. You go and buy a coffee, you give them $4 or $4.50. You don't want the money back. You had the money before you gave them the coffee. You want that experience of a great coffee. So what's that risk factor? And this is what a company needs to dig in deeper. The risk is almost at a subtle level, which is the risk in this cafe is that everyone is a jerk. And so you put up a sign, no jerks here, and immediately your sales go up and you go, what's that got to do with the coffee? Well, nothing, but that was the risk. That was why people didn't buy into this product or this service. It's not just money back. It's something deeper. Again, when we sit at our desks, it's always conjecture, it's always guesswork. But when you go to the client to go, you were going to buy this product, you hesitated for so long, what was your risk factor? And they'll go like, oh, the risk factor was A, B, and C, and this was the biggest risk. And, all the answer is already with that client who speaks, not the persona, because they can't speak, but the person who's bought your product.
You know what I loved about the risk reversal and love to this day is that it opened my eyes that I was doing that, but not thinking of it in the same way. With one of our products, I would offer, some kind of guarantee. And the book helped me realize I need to do that for my other product offerings and maybe do it better for the one that I was already doing that with. So in our case, we were selling leads from webcasts, and I would offer a guarantee because being on the other side of that transaction, I was like, what if I do it and I don't get any leads? That was my big fear. And by just saying, well, if you don't get all the leads that we promised, we'll do more and we'll get you the leads at no extra charge.
Right.
And they were like, oh, that's great. So I was doing that without even realizing.
I'll give you another example of this. So we teach people, how to write, how to draw, how to sell stuff. And we don't, this is kind of slightly odd, because here I am telling you that you need to have a risk reversal. But what I'm really telling you is you need to understand the risk. If you buy a course like a live course which is conducted by me, or a workshop which is on site, you get no money back. So people go, no money back? That's really odd. And what I tell them is that at Psychotactics, what we do is, most other people, they give you information, but they don't guarantee the skill. We give you no money back, but we guarantee the skill. What do you want? Information or skill? That's the risk.
Michael, questions?
No, I'm processing that mostly because I love it.
Because think about it. We already have access to a lot of information. You're going to buy another course, another product, another piece of information. You have more information than you need to. If you say, I want to learn golf, do you want information on golf, or do you want to play golf better? Right? So you have to understand, what is the risk factor? When I'm buying into this golf coach, what am I really trying to achieve? I'm trying to achieve a better swing, or I don't play golf, so don't kill me for this. But the point is, that's what I'm selling. What is that risk factor? The risk factor is, I will just get more information. I don't want more information. I have loads of information. So this comes from talking to the client. The client is going, my risk was that I'm going to buy another product, and I'm going to have one more pile of books. I'm going to have more stuff in my computer, and I'm going to do nothing with it. Oh, I get it. So let's turn that into a risk reversal. What's going to happen is that you're going to get a skill. We're going to guarantee the skill. And that makes it, wow, that means if I set out to get this swing, I am guaranteed the swing. 300 people stand in a line to get that swing, 300 people get the swing, and that's it. Why there's no hesitation anymore. I'm getting what I want.
And that has the follow-on effect too. It sounds like, Sean, that if I'm guaranteeing you that outcome of the skill, that then you're more likely to make some investment in order to get that skill. You're not going to be passive or stand back and say, okay, give me the skill. And that's I guess the power of digging deeper into that risk reversal and really trying to understand what their risk is. It's not reversing it by saying, I'll give you your money back. It's helping them achieve whatever the outcome is. Yeah.
Well, that's the primary reason we buy something. You're going to buy a microphone. You're going to buy earphones that look like mufflers, because you want to achieve something specific. And if that doesn't come through, then you have to have some way to return it, or to alleviate that. So people are not looking to get their money back. They're just looking for you to say, look, I stand by this product. This is how I stand by it. There was a really cool story that my friend told me when he went to Japan many, many years ago. This is over 25 years ago. And he said he bought something in Japan, and the guy, he said, what's the guarantee on this? And the guy turned it around and he said, look what it says there. He says, it says nothing. It says made in Japan. He says, that's your guarantee.